For many a Star Citizen backer, myself included, one of the most exciting features that the game promised was that of multi-crew, putting you and your friends together on one ship, all doing your own part to help unlock the full potential of that ship. But it's also fair to say that while there are some things to do by way of multi-crew in Star Citizen at the moment, it's far from the finished article. So what might we expect, and what might we learn from games that do this well? I'm Forrester, and in this video we'll explore the answers to those questions to understand what good multi-crew implementation could look like in Star Citizen. My YouTube channel has lots of Star Citizen videos ranging from guides to reviews, so if this kind of video sounds interesting, you might want to check out a few more or even subscribe to be notified when new videos go live. And in a slight departure from other videos on this channel, we'll talk about what might be in the future, so this video will delve a little into speculation territory. These are my thoughts, so please take them with a pinch of salt and not as a definitive promise for what we will get in Star Citizen. So, to begin, it might be helpful to examine some games that implement multi-crew and seemingly do it well, to figure out what is the secret to their success. Some of those games will be Hell Let Loose and the tank combat, which Morphologist introduced me to through his streams over on Twitch. I've also included the now somewhat defunct Star Trek Bridge Crew, the spiritual successor to Artemis, and good old-fashioned DCS World and the twin-seater Tomcat in the sim. One of the things that these games have in common is that the different crew positions have clearly defined roles, which for the most part are distinct from other roles in the crew, and add a key element to the success of the team. That means that every role is important, everybody contributes, and every person should feel valuable. The roles aren't menial or trivial, and so for the most part there's no sense of shame or disappointment to taking any given role aboard. There's also an element of skill involved, with each crew position requiring its own set of skill, rewarding experience and competency in that role. But additionally, there's value in the team understanding a little about how each other fulfills their role to get the most out of the ship, plane, or panzer in question. And naturally, effective communication between the team is critical. The inclusion of these elements means that having an effective crew all working together as a team creates a very satisfying experience and a feeling of accomplishment. Right now in Star Citizen, most of the multi-crew ships are lacking somewhat in functionality. There are often co-pilot or engineer stations, but for the most part all they do is turn components on and off, which is rarely helpful, or maybe at best fire missiles at enemy targets. The complicated micromanagement of power or shields exists in thought, but in reality leaves much to be desired. But we'll come to some of those possibilities in just a moment. One position that is already available and ready for multi-crew ships is turret gunners. Whether manned or remote, turret gameplay is mostly fleshed out at this point, and across some of the larger ships sets up what might be possible. However, hop into Spectrum or Reddit and mention turret gunners and you'll quickly meet with some objections. It's not fun being a turret gunner, or it's boring when you're in quantum travel, or people just don't want to be a turret gunner. These are the sort of things that you hear. My experience has been somewhat different. Yes, quantum travel is boring, but it's boring if you're in the pilot seat too. But finding people who would like to be a gunner, or just as often offering to be a gunner for somebody else, can be a really fun experience. Blasting away on the turret of a hammerhead or a redeemer or a hurricane and seeing the targets around you explode into oblivion, I love it. It's not an everyday occurrence for me, that's true, but nor does it need to be. Granted, there's always a challenge in getting everybody together in the same place, which is the usual Star Citizen challenge when grouping up, but especially for events like Xenothreat, something that warrants getting a group together, creates for some satisfying experiences. So what might we expect from developed multi-crew? The good news is that most ships have the relevant stations built in without the need to further update the ship models, whether that's the co-pilot seat in the Hercules, the tractor beam station on the Caterpillar, or the engineer station at the back of the Hammerhead. It's just that the stations don't currently do much. There are some resources out there, many of which are somewhat dated at this point, which talk about some of the things that could be expected from multicrew, building on stations and actions. Some of those actions, which may be combined into a single station on a smaller ship, or the full job of one person in a larger ship, include things like shield management, radar operations, electronic warfare, communications, fuel management, scanning, managing the ship power or CPU time, and navigation. The Javelin-class destroyer design document talks about bespoke positions for communications, weapons, radar, helm, science, and engineering. Not to mention, once you get into the territory of some of these larger ships, a role to coordinate the group becomes important too. But we're 7 years on from when I attended CitizenCon 2015 in person and watched the first demonstration of a group of players flying together in Crusader. We're almost 8 years on from the letter from the chairman in December 2014 setting the scene for multi-crew ship systems. And whilst I'm still excited for the possibilities of having those detailed, interesting and rewarding roles exist on some of our Star Citizen ships, I'm also seemingly no closer to realising that dream. Without belittling the technical complexity of building some of these features, it's also worth mentioning that the longer development takes, the less special the result could be. What I mean by that is that back in those 2014-2015 days, the promise of Star Citizen was something truly unmatched, a technical marvel and unparalleled gameplay. But the longer that delivery takes, the more chance that some of that unique appeal no longer holds true. Earlier this year, some of the discussion about what the announcement of Starfield means for Star Citizen's development framed some of that debate. And whilst I don't see Starfield as a direct Star Citizen competitor, as the scope of each game is subtly different, I do see that the next year or two may be critical if Star Citizen is to capitalise on having a unique offering. Yet, I'm still excited every time any news about multicrew drops. Naturally, for many players, most of their time in game is still spent playing alone, and that may well continue to be the case, even if more multicrew options come online. But I've talked before in another video about why I think multicrew is such an important part of the end result for Star Citizen, and stand by that premise. Moreover, I think the games showed in this video demonstrate that implementing good multicrew is possible, it just needs a little design focus and development time to make it happen, and I hope that's something that we see sooner rather than later. But what do you think? Do you care about multicrew? I look forward to discussing in the comments section. This has been something a little different, slightly longer thought piece than I usually publish, so if you found it interesting, it'd be really great for you to press that like button to tell me to make more videos like this in future. And naturally, if you've got this far and aren't yet subscribed, you might want to click that at the same time so you can see new videos as they go live. Otherwise, and as always, I hope you found this one interesting, and thank you for watching.